All right, my friends. We just pressed the Let's Go Live button over here on this incredible and amazing Friday. We made it through another week, and I hope yours was incredible. Ours was quite busy here. We got good stuff as the days unfolded behind us now. But we're not done yet. We do have some business to attend to, including some Supreme Court rulings, which we're looking forward to unpacking here in a short second. Soon as we confirm all the tubes are working, it looks like they are connected. That's tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let us do it. Shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about the Democrats trying it again. The big story is out of Michigan, and it's about election rigging, and we're going to go through this opinion because it is interesting. Not only is it talking about 2024 and what the Democrats are trying to do there to steal that state again, but they're going to tell us a little bit about the history of 2020 and this presumption of validity of signature requirements. Very fun issue that we'll talk about. But the fresh news right out of the oven today is from the Supreme Court. Clarence Thomas dropped this one, 6-3 decision. Bump stocks are back on the menu, boys. Woo! All right, that sounds fun. So we're going to go through this. Mr. Cargill is this guy who was behind this litigation. This was a Trump-era bump stock ban, and we remember a lot of this after that Las Vegas shooting that they could never figure out. Right, and so they then banned the bump stocks, and now Mr. Cargill is celebrating this morning. He says, you know, this is a pretty big deal because this is opening up the door to defend against all of the other accessory bans out there that they have tried to encroach upon. So we'll hit the highlights on what happened here. It is a long opinion, but we'll hit the head note and just get the executive summary on what's going on. But we had Clarence Thomas is the author of the opinion, and it was 6-3. So the usual lefties are very upset about this. We had Sotomayor. I feel like I'm being shot right now by this opinion. This is a fully assault opinion. Okay, stuff like that. So we'll go into that and see what she says in that decision that just dropped fresh out of the oven today. We love those fresh opinions. We are missing, though, we're missing a couple other big ones, which was the immunity decision and the J6 decision on those charges. So we're looking forward to those coming out maybe next week. Then we are going to talk about what's going on in Michigan. You remember this woman? We talked a lot about her in 2020. Jocelyn Benson, one of these individuals in the various states. We talked about many of the others. Crazy Eyes Griswold. We had Shenna Bellows in Maine. We've got Jocelyn Benson in Michigan. Their eyes are all very much similar. It looks like their souls have been sucked out of their bodies. But she has been fighting very hard to get some signature regulations in place. And this is curious. The signature regulations would say that there is a presumption of validity in the signatures. So if it just comes in, we just presume it's valid. And they apparently were doing this in 2020. And then there was a lawsuit, and then there were some changes to the things. And now there's a decision that just came out from this guy, Judge Christopher Yates, saying that you don't get to just presume, that there's a presumption of validity. So that when Jocelyn Benson and the Democrats are just scribbling signatures on all their printed ballots, then the person on the other end goes, oh, yeah, that looks great. Yeah, perfect. Oh, yeah, perfect. Slide that one in, too. No, there is no presumption of validity. You actually have to make sure they match. You don't just presume that they match. So she is not happy about this. She's a rabid TDSer, absolutely mental. And she posted this on X a couple days ago. So we'll take a look at that. We'll go through the opinion, and then we'll see what else she's up to, because she now has a mobile vehicle, apparently. I don't know if it's a getaway car for when she tries to steal the election again or what the deal is, but we'll go through all of that as well. And then we've got a couple of other segments from the state courts. We've got Fani Wills, man. She was very upset with a lot of commentators, including us here, no doubt about it, because she says that those of us who call her Fani, which is her name, are like high school immature little children for making fun of her big Fani, which I don't see what the problem is. She is Fani, and she is the biggest Fani in Georgia, but apparently she's reading a little innuendo into it. Nothing that we ever mention here, even though she has a giant butt. We still never meant it that way. She took it that way. So methinks the lady doth protest too much. I think she has a little insecurity about her big Fani. So we'll hear from her. She freaked out in church, rah, rah, screaming at all of us. So we are clearly under attack here as of today by Fani. And we also have some response to some of this stuff. Steve Sadow posted this on X because remember, Fani appealed. We read that yesterday. If you missed that segment, that was another wild segment. We had Nathan Wade melting down in the middle of an interview with Kaitlin Collins, and Steve Sadow came out and responded to this. And there's a short clip from Ashleigh Merchant as well. She was on with Kaitlin Collins, and I was trying to dig out the clips on this thing, but there aren't many clips. And it's pretty interesting because Kaitlin Collins usually will post these clips of these interviews. She was teasing this, but they haven't posted a clip of it yet. So I'm going to see if I can dig that out. But we do have a little bit of a clip here from Ashleigh Merchant, who says there is no intentionality behind any of the criminal charges that were brought against her client, Michael Roman, and the Trump co-defendants in the RICO case and in the other cases. I mean, it's just an absolute maddening circus out there in Fulton County. Now, Nancy Pelosi's coming out saying that Trump needs an intervention. She's hoping that the Trump family might stage an intervention to stop him from running for president or something. And I don't know why she would be thinking about that. I'm wondering if her family just did one for her, maybe for her alcoholism or her husband's alcoholism. I don't know. But I don't know what she's talking about, saying that the only thing that can basically save us right now is if someone stops Trump. Getting a little nervous. Sounds like she's at wit's end trying to figure out what else they can do. Hopefully she's like, maybe Melania will just sit down and talk to him. All right. Now, Thomas Massie, this was a good exchange from him talking about other Trump state-level prosecutions. We know Alvin Bragg is in the mix on this. And so Massie yesterday had a good exchange with the people who were testifying in front of Congress. And so we'll jump in and we'll see what happened there. And then, lastly, we've got an Insurrection 2.0. Again? Trump, again? Yeah, it's true. Oh my gosh, my friend's right on time. Can you hear him? You know who it is. Come on, get a little closer. Come on. I think you're going to hear it. Oh yeah, that's Leaf Blower Guy right outside. Hopefully you can hear the nice hum of clean streets permeating the airwaves. If you can't hear it now, you shouldn't admit it. So he'll be right out, but Trump storms the Congress again, insurrected it for a second time in the middle of an election year. And you know who's having PTSD flashbacks? Well, that's Liz Cheney, obviously. She's having a, look what she posted. Look at this huge paragraph. She's like, someone help. Dick Cheney, her father's like shutting the blinds and turning on calming music and lighting candles. It's okay, Liz. It's okay. We're not under attack again. So she posted this thing because she's very upset. Okay, so Trump went in there. You can see, look at this attack. Trump's attacking Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, look at that pursed lip right there. See that? He's in traumatic pain. Trump is squeezing the democracy right out of his hands. And Mitch McConnell's not even fighting back. Wow. So Liz flipped out about that. I can't believe Mitch McConnell sacrificed America again. So we'll go through. We'll see what she says. Chuck Schumer's very upset about this. This was dangerous. I can't believe Mitch did this. And MSNBC says, hey, how dare you even call yourself a Christian if you're supporting Trump? Don't you have any morality? Don't you love Jesus? If you love Jesus, how can you love Trump? That's what MSNBC's saying. Woo, that's good. So JD Vance is also out. Say, listen, look, no one believes you about J6, okay? Everyone thinks you guys are liars because you are. And Trump came out after the fact, and he spoke. So we got his full statement after he met with Congress yesterday, and we'll listen to that in case you missed it. So we got some fun stuff to get to today, my friends. I'm glad you are here. Grateful that you're joining us. It's been a heck of a week. We were wondering if we were going to get some other big spicy SCOTUS drops, but we got a couple, and one that we'll definitely get into. Of course, we're waiting for the others to drop next week. Hopefully your week was amazing. Before we jump into everything, reminder that we've got our Watcher meetup taking place June 29th, just about 2 weeks from today. Oh my goodness, it's going to be madness. It's going to be very calm and peaceful, and madness as well. So come check it out, watcherlodge.com. Las Vegas is where we're meeting, Trump Hotel, June 29th. Click the link at watcherlodge.com and get your tickets, because we'd love to see you. We're going to have a nice lunch. We're going to hang out. We're going to meet each other. Just go over here, buy your ticket. When you do, you're going to get this little pass showing up on your profile. So fill out your profile. Here's the agenda. This is where we're meeting, and where all the comments are in there. And we'll have some updates. Now, when you also sign up and get your ticket, you'll get access to the Meetup feed, the Meetup directory, and the Meetup chat. So you can hop in there. This whole panel over here will unlock for you. And then that's how we'll stay connected when we go to the event. And the plan is we are going to the Sphere you don't need to print your tickets. Yeah, you don't need to print anything out. Just tell me your name and I'll look you up. So, yeah, awesome. Nick's coming. Catherine, what's up? We got Jennifer's coming. Johnny M. Yeah, so the plan is we're going to go to the Sphere also at 9 o'clock at night. There's a UFC fight that night, but that should be over by Sphere time, hopefully. Maybe. But Sphere time, we're going to go check out the Sphere Saturday night. We're going to bring Mama G. Joey's going to come. It's going to be amazing. So that's the plan. Watcherlodge.com if you want to join us for the day's activities. We'd love to have you. We're trying to connect online and offline, because that's what the most important thing is. It's connection, isn't it? All right. So without any further ado, let's get into it, because we've got some fresh news on the day. Bump stock bans are back on the menu, boys. That's because Justice Clarence Thomas and the rest of the conservatives on the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 opinion today, and it is about bump stocks. They were banned under the ATF rule during the Trump administration, and Mr. Cargill, this gentleman right here, was the person who led the fight to undo that nonsense, because it's nonsense, as the 6-3 Supreme Court will explain. We'll let them do it. But here is what Cargill said right after the verdict came back down. Michael Cargill, he is the plaintiff in Garland versus Cargill. He's the owner of Central Texas Gunworks and Texas LTC private security instructor, and he's the host of the Come and Take It, or the Come and Talk It radio show. That's pretty clever. Come and talk it, not come and take it, you know? All right, so shout out to Michael Cargill. Here's what he says in the aftermath of this ruling from the Supreme Court, which will have ramifications beyond just this opinion.
Breaking news. I did it. Michael Cargill versus Merrick Garland. The Department of Justice, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the bump stock lawsuit. I beat him in the United States Supreme Court.
Let's go.
I was told over 5 years ago, why are you going down this road? No one cares about bump stocks. Let's go ahead and let them take the bump stock. But instead, I stood and fought. And because of this, the bump stock case is going to be the case that saves everything. It's going to stop the ATF from coming after their brace, the triggers, all different parts and pieces that they're trying to ban. And I'm glad I stood up and fought. So now we have a case that is case law that we can move forward around this country and defend our Second Amendment rights. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. Better yet, get yourself a bump stock.
Heck yeah! News. Get yourself a gun and a bump stock, because it's now legal thanks to the Supreme Court. And that's a great message from Michael Cargill. More guns, less crime, more freedom, more protection, self-defense. God bless America. This is the ruling, the opinion from the Supreme Court of these United States. You see, this is a slip opinion, so it might be subject to some slight changes and modifications as they correct some details, case cites, little errors and mistakes. But this is the opinion that has dropped. Case is Garland, Merrick, versus Cargill, up on appeal from the Fifth Circuit of the United States. here's what the Supreme Court tells us. This is the head note, so this is kind of a summary of the full opinion, but we'll just hit the highlights via these pages. But the full opinion comes from Judge Clarence Thomas, joined by the rest of the conservatives. Now, Alito submitted a concurring opinion, so a little different reasoning and logic behind why he's agreeing, but the three libs dissented. Sotomayor wrote the dissenting opinion, Kagan and Jackson now joining. So from the summary from the Supreme Court, which does a nice job explaining what happened here, they tell us, by way of background, that the National Firearms Act of 1934, which is a statute passed by Congress, it tells us what a machine gun is, defines a machine gun. And they put that in quotes so we can see it. And here's the definition. Any weapon which shoots, is designed to shoot, or can be readily restored to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. So it sounds like a pretty interesting definition. A single function of the trigger. So you pull, and then automatically more than one shot goes out. So you pull it, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, versus one bullet. One pull, one bullet. One pull, one bullet. So with the machine gun, a shooter can fire multiple times or even continuously by engaging the trigger only once. This capability distinguishes a machine gun from a semi-automatic firearm, which was the second explanation I just did. With a semi-automatic fire, the shooter can only fire one time by engaging the trigger. But using a technique called bump firing, shooters can fire a semi-automatic firearm at rates approaching those of some machine guns. A shooter who bump fires a rifle uses the firearm's recoil. So when you pull the trigger, the gun fires and creates recoil. So it bumps back to help rapidly manipulate the trigger. Now, although bump firing does not require any additional equipment, a bump stock is an accessory designed to make the technique easier. So you can do it without a bump stock, but you could also just buy a bump stock and it kind of helps it bounce around. A bump stock does not alter the basic mechanics of a bump fire, and the trigger still must be released and re-engaged to fire each additional shot. So kind of the theory is that you're just holding your finger there, and rather than you pulling the trigger, click, 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 you're kind of holding it and the trigger is kind of just bumping back. So the recoil is bumping it back into your body, and then and the bump stock is kind of springy, so it springs it back. And so the trigger is just, rapidly firing. So it's almost like it's rapid fire without you having to pull it a bunch of times. Re-engaged each shot. Now, for many years, the ATF consistently took the position that semi-automatic rifles, For many years, the Bureau of ATF consistently took the position that semi-automatic rifles that were equipped with bump stocks were not machine guns. So they said this for a long time. But then the ATF abruptly changed course when a gunman using semi-automatic rifles equipped with bump stocks fired hundreds of rounds into a crowd in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we never knew what ultimately happened with that. What a weird story. Killing 58 people and wounding over 500 more. It was a weird story. Remember those sheriffs were coming out, feds came in. That was one of those movies where the feds came in like, it's our jurisdiction now. Shut your mouths. And we didn't hear anything else about it. ATF subsequently proposed a rule that would repudiate its previous guidance. So we got to change this to clarify that bump stocks are machine guns. Now, ATF rule ordered owners of bump stocks either to destroy or surrender them to the ATF to avoid criminal prosecution. So if you have one of these, you're now a criminal. Isn't that fun? Give us your bump stock or you're a criminal. Michael Cargill surrendered 2 bump stocks to the ATF under protest. So he took them in. The guy we just heard from, he says, okay, fine. Then he filed a lawsuit to challenge it. Now, Cargill alleged, he says the ATF lacks statutory authority to promulgate this rule, so they didn't change the statute. So let's always be clear about this. We have the Constitution, then we have the statutes, which we'll call the U.S. Code, then we have the regulations. Constitution is the supreme, and the statutes are derivative from that. If the statute is unconstitutional, the court says, no, it's unconstitutional. Then from the statutes, then they create regulations. Now, the regulations is where a lot of the shenanigans happen. They come in and we have to write rules and regulations. And so they say they're in comportment with the statutes, but they're not. And it's like the game of telephone, right? Hey, little Johnny sells sea cells by the seashore, but and then you pass it off. And by the time it gets to the other end of the game, it's a totally different thing. And they say, well, it's still constitutional. No. It's you guys just manipulating things. So when after Las Vegas, they obviously didn't want to pass a new statute. That requires a lot of work for Congress. So they just changed the regulations. And now machine gun means, I guess, bump stocks. Now, after a bench trial, the district court entered judgment for the ATF. So Cargill filed. He lost. They said, yeah, they can do whatever they want. Fifth Circuit initially affirmed, but then it reversed. They said, actually, no. They said, actually, yeah, that is ambiguous. We don't know whether a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock actually does fit the definition of a machine gun, and said that ambiguity is in favor of Cargill. So now let's back up to that definition, since we know what we're talking about. So it's a bump stock. Now, any machine gun as quote, so let's say you have a semi-automatic rifle that is at one pull, one fire. Now you attach a bump stock to it. And it says automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. So now you're arguing now the bump stock, when it's springing the firearm back into your trigger finger, is that a second function? Okay, so if you're saying, well, yeah, it's still a semi-automatic rifle, you're just shooting it rapidly. But every single time you're pulling the trigger, you have to pull the trigger in order to discharge the projectile. But every time that the trigger pulls, that is a separate function. So yes, it still is a single function. It's just happening rapidly. So it's a single function every time happening rapidly. It's not automatically firing more than one shot with a single function. It's a function per projectile. So now they said, well, no, because it essentially, they're basically writing this out, a single function of the trigger. It's automatically shooting more than one shot. You pull the trigger once and then the bump, and then you don't count the rest of the trigger pulls, essentially, is what they're saying. So the Supreme Court says, okay, listen, here's the ruling. Held, the ATF, the bureaucracy that we all know, exceeded its statutory authority by issuing a rule that classifies a bump stock as a machine gun. A bump stock is not a machine gun. They say a semi-automatic rifle, this is SCOTUS writing, equipped with a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock is not a machine gun as defined by the law. Why? 1, it cannot fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. Okay, you don't pull it once and hold, and it just goes off. And even if it could, it would not do so automatically. So we have to use the language of the statute and see if the ATF rules applies. Court says no, it does not. So therefore, the ATF exceeded its authority by issuing a rule that classifies bump stocks as machine guns. So in other words, the rule, the regulation, is in direct contradiction to the statute. The statute was passed pursuant to constitutional authority, and you can't just change it via rules. Now, a semi-automatic rifle equipped with a bump stock does not fire more than one shot by a single function of the trigger. The phrase function of the trigger refers to the mode of action by which the trigger activates the firing mechanism. No one disputes that a semi-auto rifle without a bump stock is not a machine gun because the shooter must release and reset the trigger between every shot, and any subsequent shot fired after the trigger has been released and reset is the result of a separate and distinct function of the trigger. Every shot. Now, nothing changes when a semi-automatic rifle is equipped with a bump stock. It's the same trigger. It's the same function. Between every shot, the shooter must release pressure from the trigger, and it must reset, that's the bump, before re-engaging the trigger for another shot. A bump stock merely functions to reduce the amount of time that elapses between a separate function of the trigger, but there are multiple of them. Now, ATF argues that a shooter using a bump stock must pull the trigger only once. Like they say, well, they pull it once, and then it just goes. So they're not doing anything else. This initial trigger sets off a sequence. They say it's fire, recoil, bump, fire. And so that is essentially one function. Now, they can continue to fire without additional physical manipulation of the trigger by the shooter because you're just pulling it. So this argument rests on the mistaken premise that there is a difference between the shooter flexing his finger to pull the trigger and pushing the firearm forward to bump the trigger against the finger. And moreover, the ATF's position is logically inconsistent because its reasoning would also mean that a semi-automatic rifle without a bump stock is capable of firing more than one shot with just a single function. But the ATF agrees this is not the case. And so the ATF is at odds with itself. And see, even if a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock could fire more than one shot by, quote, a single function of the trigger, it would not do so automatically. And automatically means more than one shot, a single function of the trigger. If something more than a single function is required to fire more than multiple shots, the weapon does not satisfy the definition, okay? Firing multiple shots using a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock requires more than a single function. You must maintain forward pressure on the front grip with this non-trigger hand, and without this ongoing manual input, the bump stock will not fire. Now, ATF says no. Machine guns also require continual manual input. The shooter must engage the trigger and keep it pressed down to continue shooting. ATF says there's no meaningful difference between holding down a traditional machine gun and a bump stock, but that argument ignores the word automatically by the single function of the trigger. Okay, simply pressing and holding the trigger down is not manual input, and by contrast, pushing forward on the front grip of a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock is not part of the function of the trigger. And so they are coming to the close on this, but they tell us, moreover, even a semi-automatic rifle with a bump stock is indistinguishable from this shotgun, the ATF concedes cannot fire multiple shots automatically. ATF responds that a shooter is less physically involved with operating a bump stock on that model. The bump stock harnesses the recoil and allows the shooter to contain continuous firing, but it's not automatic. It's not more than a single. It's not just a single function. It is more than that. But ATF abandons the text, and they rely on the presumption against ineffectiveness. They say that presumption weighs against interpretations of a statute. And in their view, Congress restricted machine guns because they don't want things to fire quickly, right? It's kind of the point. It's like, well, we don't really know how we get there, but we just don't want guns to fire fast. And so it should apply. But the presumption against ineffectiveness cannot do what the work the ATF asks it to do. And you can't just shove that definition in there. And so they are not machine guns by definition. Sorry, libs. And that is the decision from the Supreme Court. Now, let's see if there is some dissent here. And that's from Justice Alito. He's concurring. Let's see what the dissent looks like, because they're going to be hysterical over this. Sotomayor writes this. We'll just hit a couple highlights. Says, in October 2017, a shooter opened fire in Las Vegas, wounded over 500. He did so with bump stocks because they're rapid fire. Now, Congress has sharply restricted civilian ownership of machine guns since 1934. They define a machine gun, and then Trump ultimately did this ban. But the court put bump stocks back in civilian hands today, and to do so is dangerous. And she writes, when I see a bird that walks like a duck, swims like a duck, quacks like a duck, I call that bird a duck. A bump stock equipped with semi-automatic rifle automatically fires more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger, except it doesn't at all, as we just saw. It's not a single function. The trigger has to click every time. So because I, like Congress, call that a machine gun, I respectfully dissent. So I wonder if she's ever shot a firearm in her life, ever. All right, so she's going to walk us through her expertise on firearms, which we're not interested in. A bump stock automates and stabilizes the bump firing process. It replaces the stock. We got it. It typically includes a finger rest and a receiver module. And a machine gun does not fire itself either. All right, so she's going to say they're basically the same thing, even though they're not. And she says the majority is going to, I guess more people are going to be murdered. And we still don't know what happened in Las Vegas, to be honest. The FBI came in there and they said, it's our investigation. We know basically nothing about it. Who's behind? Was it just some crazy person? I guess that's what they want us to believe. And it was a strange thing that he was able to bring in huge suitcases full of multiple bump stock or fully automatic, maybe, who knows what they are, what they ultimately were. But was able to bring all of that into one of the most secure places in the entire country because it's a casino. They've got cameras everywhere. It's Las Vegas. And we still don't know much about it. And they just kind of wrapped up that entire investigation. And now it's about bump stocks, not about federal operations that result in dozens of people dead. But okay, so that's the decision from the Supreme Court. Mr. Cargill celebrates that one. And it's very nice to see the Supreme Court telling any bureaucracy that they can't just change the rules. This is a nice victory for the Second Amendment, and it's a nice victory against the administrative state. The ATF can have a policy for decades, and then all of a sudden, oh no, we decided not. This is what they're doing all over the place. We have multiple situations where they're just reinterpreting the regulations, and they've done that to install Jack Smith, Trump's prosecutor, out of thin air because they just reinterpret the regulations to suit them. So this is good. It's going against the ATF and their discretion in doing whatever the hell they want. Good news. 6-3 opinion from Clarence Thomas. We're going to be here continuing to cover SCOTUS news, election litigation, Trump cases, and more. So thank you for subscribing, my friends, wherever it is you're watching this. We have a great segment coming up next. We're talking about the 2024 election and how Jocelyn Benson from Michigan did everything she could to try to get massive amounts of signatures through until a judge stopped her. We'll talk about that next. We'll see you over there on the next one, which is right now. So let's get right to it because we've got this one from Michigan. A major court ruling now putting a halt to some attempted election rigging by this woman, Jocelyn Benson, who we remember from 2020, where she put her handiwork on that one. There in the state of Michigan, she has a big problem with Donald Trump, TDS level 10 plus at least, and she's been working as the Secretary of State to interfere, in my opinion, with the normal operation of a legitimate election. Said this on X very recently, says, you know, the 2024 presidential election will be a chance for us Americans to define who we are and who we strive to be. Now and for years to come, we will rise above the noise and endorse truth, freedom, and decency, or will we allow the forces that divide us with misinformation and chaos to rule the day? And she's responding to Matthew Dowd. He says, this vote this November is fundamentally not about the character, the values, and the integrity of Trump and the GOP. It's a referendum on our own character, our values, and our integrity, and citizens of this once great democracy. I don't even know what they're saying, to be honest. Whose character? Joe Biden's character? Kamala Harris's character? Who are they talking about? The integrity of Trump, the DOJ's character? FBI? State Department? What are they talking about? So who knows? But all they know is they just want to win. And if you challenge them, it's misinformation. So what is Jocelyn Benson doing? Now, we've been following her for a long time. If you joined us in 2020 when we were covering all of that election litigation back then, we heard a lot about her, and she's up to no good again. And Michigan went in the Democrats' favor, allegedly. So here's the story over from a Michigan news source. Here's a little bit of background on what's happening here, if this will ultimately load. Okay, don't know what happened to this website. Let's see. There it is. All right, Michigan judge is now rejecting guidance. We're going to read the opinion from Jocelyn Benson. They said that clerks who look at signatures on ballots, that when they come in, they should initially presume that the absentee ballot signatures are valid. There's a presumption of validity, meaning you don't challenge it. You don't even check it. You just presume it's valid unless it's clearly not, rather than saying Are these equal? Let me make a distinction. Okay, there's a higher level of scrutiny. The judge did uphold separate rules that give clerks broad discretion on why they may not match. But a 2023 election law helped save Benson's 2022 rule that detailed how clerks can compare signatures. So we're going to read this. Now, this is not just about 2024, 2022, 2023. The court gives us background on 2020 and how this presumption of validity existed back then. The 10-page order from Christopher Yates struck down that guidance, a victory for the Republicans who sued. But Yates, an appointee of Governor Gretchen Whitmer, preserved other state rules that still give them broad discretion to accept signatures that don't exactly match. But it's not the presumption of validity, which is wild that this is something that is happening in Michigan. So here's the opinion. Republican National Committee sued Jocelyn Benson. She's the Secretary of State of Michigan, someone we covered a lot during the rigging of Michigan in 2020, who's now trying to do it again until the judge, Christopher Yates, put a halt on this. Here's the opinion from the court saying, all right, look, the dispute before the court is not only the latest chapter in a long battle over presumptions of validity of voters' signatures on absentee ballot applications and submissions. So when they come in, you don't check them. You just presume they're valid. But also, this is a contest about rules that were promulgated by Jocelyn to assist local election officials in the signature verification process. Now, the court concludes here today that any presumption of validity cannot pass muster under Michigan law. And the rules promulgated by Jocelyn can withstand the challenge under Michigan law. So we're kind of splitting it. Now, here's some factual background. Now, this is why I think this opinion is so important, is because it gives us some clarity on what happened in this year, 2020. What happened? Oh, the Secretary of State provided guidance to local election officials. This is a judge writing, that included a presumption of validity for voters' signatures. So when the signatures came in Michigan in 2020, they're just presumed valid. Isn't that fun? On absentee ballot applications and absentee ballots processed at the local level. Judge cites footnote 1. He says the formal term is absentee voter ballot, but we're just going to use this phrase for simplicity. Got it. Now, Plaintiff Michigan Republican Party and the Allegan County Court Clerk, they filed suit to bar the use of the presumption of validity in a guidance document. The Court of Claims ultimately determined the guidance was impermissible because it did not comport with the requirements set forth in the APA. And guess what? The opinion of the Court of Claims came out. Looks like it was issued March 9th, 2021. So now what we can surmise from this is that these orders came out. So let's just think about the timeline here. The order came out from Jocelyn Benson in 2020. You guys do it this way. Accept everything that comes in. Republicans sue. It's not until March 2021 that it's over. They say, oh yeah, March. Election's over. Okay, in March 2021. So they start in 2020. They rig the election. They get told that you can't do that. So in March 2021, they go back to the drafting table. The decision in Janetsky says that they sent the defendants back to the drafting table. So after they rigged 2020, in July 2021, the Department of State initiated a process of rulemaking under the APA to promulgate signature verification standards for absentee ballots and absentee ballots applications. Okay, so they created this window, and now they're fixing it. Now, that effort yielded a set of rules for signature matching. That went into effect on December 19, 2022. So you see, they were doing whatever they wanted. There was a presumption of validity for all the signatures. It sounds like we can infer that from this in 2020. Just accept whatever you want. Then there's a lawsuit. They get sued. It gets reversed after the election. It's crazy. Those rules include a provision talking about entitlement, sufficient agreement of voter signature, initial presumption of validity. So they wrote back in 2022, they came back and wrote some new rules, and they still shoved it in there. So they shoved initial presumption of validity back in the rules, even though it wasn't necessarily allowed from that prior opinion. So even though the catch line refers to an initial presumption of validity, so they put that in like the rule, okay, it's rule 2, and it's all of those things, voter contact, it's like the title of a chapter. The body of rule 2 makes no initial presumption, no mention of it. So it's just kind of in the title, but it's not in the actual rules. Now, how that came to be is a story itself. Judge is like, why'd they do that? Why'd they put it in the title if it's not in the actual rule? The initial draft of Rule 2, which came after 2020, even though it was the presumption supposedly was valid during that time. The initial draft of Rule 2 after 2020 provided that signatures must be reviewed beginning with the presumption that the voter's signature is genuine and it's valid. So when you have all these fake ballots that come in, you can't even, it's presumed valid. Unless it looks like it's, Mickey Mouse or something wrote it. Mickey Mouse's signature. It's like, okay, that's clearly not Mickey Mouse here, probably. Not maybe. But otherwise, you can't even, it's Mickey Mouse. Well, you can challenge it. How dare you? It's presumed valid. That's the rule. It's in the rules. So during the public comment period, however, the negative response to the presumption was so strong that the Secretary of State accepted a proposal from another committee to strike the instruction that local election officials must begin review of a voter's signature on an absent voter ballot application or an absent voter ballot envelope with a presumption that the signature is valid. Now, perhaps due to an oversight because our legislators are so idiotic, the reference in the catch line to the initial presumption of validity remained in Rule 2, but the parties appear to agree that the catch line does not control the meaning of Rule 2, so its reference to, quote, an initial presumption of validity provides no legal authority for a presumption. Our government is so dumb, okay? Like, they have to go redraft the rule to get rid of this because the prior case told them to, and then they come back and it's still in there. They pass it. Like, did nobody spell check this thing or proofread it? Significantly, the rules for signature matching under Michigan code include 2 provisions. 1 is guidance on redeeming qualities of signatures. 1 is on explanations for differences in signatures. By all accounts, both of those rules remain in effect today. And additionally, the Secretary of State issued advice and guidance, that's Jocelyn, to local election officials, again, in December 2023. So now she's telling them how to conduct signature comparisons on these votes. That document is entitled Signature Verification, Voter Not Notification, and Signature Cure. It's now at the heart of the dispute. So then, just a couple months ago, in this year, a collection of plaintiffs filed this action against her again, seeking relief. In 5 counts, they asked the court to declare the guidance in the new December manual, as well as this new rule, invalid under the Michigan Constitution. Okay, Jocelyn is trying it again. And now, after extensive briefing by the competing parties, we had oral arguments, and here's what the court has decided. The defense wants this court, that's Jocelyn, to dismiss this, and the challengers want summary judgment. But here's what the courts say. First of all, there is standing. Now, although this action was violated by a constellation of plaintiffs, the standing issue appears to involve no factual dispute at all, so the court can resolve this based on the existing record. Now, one of the plaintiffs, Cindy, serves as the town clerk, and so she needs a ruling in the form of a declaratory judgment. So she has standing, and they didn't challenge her standing, so we're here. We can decide this case. Now, let's talk about the actual manual. The guidance manual issued by Jocelyn Benson in December of last year to try to rig 24 to, quote, assist clerks in dealing with signature verification, voter notification, and signature cure states, okay, Jocelyn's trying it again. It's so insane. She just got told don't do this. She just put it in her manual. Voter signatures are entitled to an initial presumption of validity, okay? So they just added it. It's not to a presumption of validity. It's an initial presumption of validity. They're such scammers. Jocelyn, we know what you're doing, cheater. You just can't add a word in there and solve the whole thing. The plaintiffs contend that an initial presumption of validity is also impermissible, and the court agrees. Golly. Under the Constitution, election officials, they say, shall verify the identity of a voter who applies for an absent voter ballot other than by in person and by comparing the voter's signature with the record. You must do that. And you must verify, it doesn't say presumed it's okay, and you must verify the identity of a voter who votes an absent ballot by comparing the signature against the record. And so thus our Constitution calls for a comparison. You have to compare it. You cannot just make a presumption for or against validity. Jocelyn, you actually have to look at the signatures. Okay, when people were saying in 2020, they weren't checking signatures, this is why. Because they weren't. Because Michigan, Jocelyn, were saying there was a presumption that they were valid. So you didn't even have to check. That was in violation of the Michigan Constitution. The Constitution says you shall verify it. Our Constitution calls for it. The language in the Michigan statute also precludes the application of a presumption of validity. It says you must review, the city clerk shall review each absent voter ballot return envelope. And by verifying, you must verify the signature in accordance with the law. It makes no mention of a presumption of validity. That's what Jocelyn wants, so all the fake ballots can come through. They don't have to check them at all. Here's what else Michigan law says. An elector's signature is invalid only if it differs in significant and obvious respects. Slight dissimilarities must be resolved in favor of them. Exact signature matches are not required. It just has to agree sufficiently. Now, those three sentences, which do not prescribe or even suggest a presumption of validity, no, they provide election officials with directives they must follow in verifying the signatures on the absentee ballot and the applications and envelopes. You don't get to just decide that they're fine. In response to the challenger's reliance on this pellucid statutory language, pellucid. Okay, let's do it. All right, go ahead. Let's try it. We got to do it. We have to. I'm sorry, we have to do it. We have to do it. Turn to your neighbor and say...
pellucid.
Pellucid. Turn to your neighbor.
Pellucid.
Pellucid. Okay. It means translucently clear. It means lucid in style or meaning. It means easily understood.
Pellucid.
Okay, pellucid. So in response to the plaintiff's reliance upon the pellucid statutory language, which is obviously clear as hell, the defendants take the position that the guidance manual does not prescribe a presumption. No, instead it calls for a more modest initial presumption. With apologies to Gertrude Stein, says the judge, however, a presumption is a presumption is a presumption, okay? Whether the guidance manual includes a gentle nudge instead of a hip check, okay, whether it's a love tap or a right cross, it's still foul under Michigan law. Jocelyn, you cheater. Initial. Preliminary. She'll come back, she'll call it a preliminary initial presumption. She'll call it a PIP. Oh, it's just preliminary. Indeed, the defendant's decision to initially assert but then to later withdraw the presumption language speaks volumes about their understanding of Michigan law. So we know you tried to put it in and then put it out. And will not allow. And so accordingly, the court shall award a declaratory judgment describing as impermissible all presumption language, Jocelyn, contained in the guidance manual for dealing with absentee ballots. You don't just get to make up whatever you want. Now, they also concede that some of these other rules, the plaintiffs, the challengers, but they nonetheless assert some of these rules are valid, but some are not. Now, based on the court's analysis, the portion of the catch-all line in Rule 2 also must be excised. So delete that from your rule, Jocelyn. The excision of that language from the catch line will not have any appreciable effect because it's not part of the statute itself. So take it out of the rules. Rather, the catch line is inserted for the purpose of convenience it's like chapter titles, but it's not in the chapter, so get it out of the title. The principle presumably applies with equal force to the rules. Now, the more difficult question concerns the validity of Rule 4, which is talking about the explanation for the differences in the signatures. So can you say that they match? So now you actually have to compare. Okay, you can't just say there's a presumption. But now, okay, we're comparing. Now can we decide that they match? Here are some 5 possible explanations where the election riggers can say, oh yeah, it matches totally, yeah, and then shove it through. So they'll say 1, evidence of trembling or shaking in the signature because you're getting old, health related, getting old. The voter may have used a diminutive of their full legal name. So if I write like Rob, but not Robert, or R Govea instead of Robert Govea, maybe that's good enough. The voter's signature style may have changed slightly over time. The signature may have been written in haste. The surface of the location may have been rough, even, or unstable. And that all sounds fine, right? Like, yeah, sure, our signatures are not exactly the same every time. But in separate language that is permissive, this other rule explains that other officials may also consider factors applicable to a particular voter. So now they can just look at the individual, not just the signature. Like the voter age, the age of the signatures. So how old is this person, and when is the record? So did they sign this 5 years? Like, is their signature record 5 years ago? Is it 25 years ago? The possibility the voter is disabled, their primary language, the quality of the digitized signature, and so on. Now, the court disagrees. They say, well, that sounds like you have that power. The Secretary of State possesses powers and duties about these procedures, and those rules are allowed. A signature is only invalid if it's inspected and slight dissimilarities seems like it's in alignment with those rules. So those rules are valid. Now, without question, it says, let's be generous to the voters. Allow for disqualification only if it's like clear. Slight dissimilarity should be resolved in favor of the voter. And so the judge says, we'll allow those rules to continue to be in place. But for all the reasons set forth, the court declares that Jocelyn's second attempt at initial presumption of validity of signatures is incompatible with the Constitution of Michigan. The court declares that the catch line, initial presumption of validity, which they tried to shoehorn in there, is also incompatible. Now, other things are compatible. And so we're going to split this. You can ask, or you can consider reasons why they might match, even if they look like they might not. The court invites further proposed judgments here soon. Signed by Christopher P. Yates, Court of Claims from Michigan. And so Jocelyn Benson loses big time on that. You can tell this was pretty significant for them because of how hard they were trying to just even get the language in. If they could just even have it a part of the rules, then the people at the polling places would say, oh, no, but it says right here in the rules. It's not in the rule, but it says in the title. So I guess maybe we can presume they're valid. Then they changed it. They want the presumption so badly that they just changed it to call it an initial presumption to see if that could, maybe if they could squeeze that through. Maybe they'll try preliminary initial presumption sometimes on Tuesdays. Maybe that one will fly through. Keep trying, Jocelyn. They're cheaters. They're liars. They're trying to rig 2024 just like they did in 2020, which is what they did in Michigan. So here's Jocelyn. She is out now. This was just a little campaign update from her. This is what Jocelyn's working on in Michigan. We're going to see what she sounds like here as she unveils her new mobile secretary office.
Starting today, the Secretary of State Resources and Services will become a little more accessible. Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson joined various community leaders and officials on the steps of the Marquette District Court to celebrate the launch of the newest Secretary of State mobile office. With Michigan's Upper Peninsula being such an expansive region, the Secretary of State says having this resource will mean citizens who have difficulty getting to the nearest Secretary of State office will be able to access important resources much more easily.
Well, as Secretary of State, it's been really important to me to ensure, as someone who also has a home here in Marquette, that we effectively serve everyone throughout the state, whether they're in Copper Harbor or all the way, or in Houghton, or all the way down in Hillsdale or Grand Rapids or Detroit. And so this dedicated mobile office will serve residents of the Upper Peninsula all throughout the year and make sure that anytime they need state services, they'll be able to access them conveniently and effectively. We anticipate visiting senior centers, veteran shelters, community events, and other gatherings. And anyone can request a mobile office to visit their event facility at michigan.gov/SOS mobile.
It sounds like she's creating a little mobile ballot harvesting DoorDash operation or something like that. Do you need us to come pick up some ballots from you? Perfect. We have a mobile Secretary of State office. We'll be happy to come up and pick. Where's your printer at? Oh, I mean, where's your residence at? Great. We'll see you soon. All right. So Judge Christopher Yates puts the halt on the multiple attempts to create a presumption of validity. That is a nice catchphrase for us to remember. Anytime they say, well, how was the election rigged? You say, oh, it was easy. There was an illegal rule change in Michigan where she adjusted the mechanism by which signatures are supposed to be matched. She just said that they're all presumptively valid. There was a presumption of validity in her own rules, meaning they did not even check them. They just presumed they're valid. And a court in Michigan has now confirmed that the attempt to do that again in 2024 is invalid. But none of that was addressed in 2020. Michigan was rigged, as we know. Now it's proven by a judge. So this is something we'll continue to cover. This election litigation is going to heat up here as 2024 emerges every single day closer and closer. And we're going to continue to cover it, my friends. So thank you for subscribing as we do. Would love it if you liked this video, and really would love it if you shared this content with a friend or family member so that they, especially if they're in Michigan, so that they know what is going on, what Jocelyn Benson is trying to do in their state. It's very sneaky. This is how the elections are rigged. It's not going to be some secret general from Venezuela. This is it right now. And they're trying to create these little initial presumptions here and here. It's all marginal stuff. So it's critically important that these people are held accountable and this knowledge is shared. So thanks for sharing it. Thanks for being here, my friends. We'll see you on our next segment, which is where we're going to be talking about Fani Willis and her little meltdown there. People calling her Fani, and she doesn't like it. So we'll see you there and back here on the next one. All right, now we're not done, my friends. Of course, we're live. We're moving on. We got the second segment to attend to here. And it's Fani Willis. She's not happy about any of this. Fani Willis rages at people who just are using her name. We've called her Big Fani Willis here for a long time because she is the biggest Fani in Georgia. She's made a big name for herself as the head DA of Fulton County. So we want to honor and respect her, but she's not very happy about it. She says we're like high school kids, very immature, and basically I feel like we're under attack here today. So we're going to talk about this and then get some reaction from defense attorney Steve Sadow and Ashleigh Merchant. But here's just a short excerpt. Fani was back at a church again, and she was doing her thing where she's lecturing everybody about how godly she is and how monstrous everybody else is. Remember the last time we heard her at a church, she was explaining how she had other white people who worked for her too, and I guess she wasn't sleeping with them, but there is racism against her, and God is on her side and all the things. So she's at another church, and here she is attacking all of us, my friends. We're in this together.
While they over there running their mouth, I'm over here paying them no mind. See, I'm so tired of hearing these idiots call my name as Fani.
Fani?
In a way to attempt to humiliate me. Because
you've done that with your own behavior and your own actions.
Because like silly schoolboys, the name reminds them of a woman's rear.
Yeah.
What?
Yes. Big Fani. First of all, we never made the derriere innuendo, okay? She happens to have a big butt. That's true. But we never made that the subject of our nickname here. We were trying to be honorable and respect her because she is the biggest Fani in Georgia. She made this very known, okay? She was here in trial telling us about her Grey Goose and about her cash and about her cruises. And if one of her friends needs a G, she pays him a G. So it had nothing to do with her big fat butt at all. It had to do with her having some really serious accomplishments there in Fulton County. I mean, she's Fani Willis, for crying out loud, national case. She had a whole book written about her. She's incredible and the biggest Fani in Georgia. So obviously she's very upset with us. And I think it's actually getting to her, right? That's you get upset like this when it stings. Oh, we'll listen to it again. You can see how upset she is. She is agitated about this nickname. Big Fani doesn't like it. And she's telling us that this only resembles us referring to a booty. Wait until she learns what Fani means in the UK. She's not going to like that at all.
They over there running their mouth. I'm over here paying them no mind.
No mind.
I'm so tired of hearing these idiots call my name as Fani in a way to attempt to humiliate me. Because like silly schoolboys, the name reminds them of a woman's rear.
Do you think Fani twerks? Do you think she's a twerker? When she was going over there with Nathan Wade at 2 a.m, sending him the hot dog messages, you think she was getting her twerk on over there? I would guess so. I would bet so. She's probably twerking it out over there. So I don't know what's so offensive about that. Okay, twerking is not. It's a very common thing these days. So I don't know what her problem is here. Fani is her name, okay? It's spelled Fani. It's Fani. And she is the biggest Fani in Georgia. And I don't know what she's so upset about. This was supposed to be an honorable label for her because she's so accomplished. Fighting for America to stop dangerous tyrants from seizing our democracy. All right, so she appealed. We read that yesterday. And Fani is very upset. She was telling the Court of Appeals, you guys are idiots. I can't believe you improvidently granted this decision because you can't challenge Scott McAfee's factual findings. In her appeal, which we read yesterday, she made no mention of the legal standard and whether the Court of Appeals would maybe change the legal standard that Judge McAfee applied because he inappropriately identified and applied an erroneous legal standard. If that standard was applied to the facts, that different standard applied to the same facts, you might have a different conclusion. Because that's how legal analysis works. But Fani had a difficult time with that conversation. And so here is what Steve Sadow said in response to her appeal. Says Steve Sadow, Trump's lead attorney in Georgia, called the prosecution filing, quote, a last-ditch effort to stop any appellate review of DA Willis's conduct. He accused prosecutors of omitting McAfee's criticism of Willis and her behavior in his March order. So shout out to Steve Sadow, who did make that point. And Fani didn't tell us at all about her stinky Fani odor of mendacity that was permeating the entire courtroom and funking up all of Fulton County. It was stinky. And people had some questions about why Fani was so stinky and stinking up their entire county. So here is a little excerpt from our friend Ashleigh Merchant. She was on with Kaitlin Collins and been doing excellent work there, exposing all of the corruption in Georgia, in Fulton County, and tells us very clearly here that there is no illegality in this case, in the Young Thug case. We don't know about intentionality from Fani. They just bring charges, and it doesn't ultimately prove any criminality at all. Here's Ashleigh.
If you look at all of the discovery in the Georgia case, I've seen nothing illegal. There's nothing illegal. And we've asked multiple times, come forward, tell us what it is that they did that's actually illegal. There's nothing. There's no intent to defraud. There's no proof of that. So if you've got that fear, the safest option when you're appearing in front of January 6th committee is to plead the fifth, because you don't know how that is going to be used. He has been indicted for something that's not illegal here in Georgia. And so you have to have caution when you're testifying in front of a committee like that. Well,
okay, so she goes on to read all the charges and says, well, the charges are charges. And so those are criminal charges, says Kaitlin Collins. Then Ashleigh Merchant obviously obliterates that by saying, yeah, but there's no facts that show that those charges are actually criminal, because when you have criminal charges, there are elements of an offense and you got to prove those various elements, like check boxes you have to check off. One of those involves a mens rea, a guilty mindset. What is the intentionality? What is the mindset that is necessary to create satisfaction of that criminal element? What is the culpability standard? And they haven't proven that in Fani's case. And now This is more because Thomas Massie was also digging into these state-level prosecutions. He was asking about Alvin Bragg and about what's happening in New York when he was there. This clip comes from our friend Kaneko the Great, doing great work over there on X. Clip this one for us. You can see 1 million views on this puppy because he's digging into this problem from a different state. Fani's going hog wild, melting down. Don't call me booty. And now Massie is asking questions about Bragg and Colangelo and how all of these weaponized prosecutors are colluding together to impact and rig 2024. Here is Massie digging in.
Kind of crime here, but when we dig down to the bottom of it and try to find out what the underlying crime is, I don't think that's been discussed enough, or what the supposed underlying crime is. One of the propositions was that hush money should be reported as a campaign finance expense. Okay, if somebody pays their attorney to seal divorce records because they may be going to run for office or they are running for office, Mr. Traynor, is that a campaign finance expense? Is that something you see on campaign finance reports?
That is not. It is something that you would see. Legal fees are often reported, and it has been the tradition at the commission in looking at those legal fees that we don't question what the attorney-client privilege between the candidates and the lawyer are of what's needed in those particular circumstances.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton got away with that when she hired for
use
Steele.
Another example. In 1999, Bill and Hillary Clinton bought a house in New York. Obviously influenced the election of the Senate race there in New York because they moved into the House so that she could run for Senate.
Yeah.
Is that a campaign finance expense? Is everything that could influence a campaign finance expense?
Well, under Mr. Bragg's interpretation, it would be,
Yeah.
but under normal campaign finance law, it would not be. There are distinct similarities here between the John Edwards prosecution in 2008, where he paid over $1 million to his mistress to keep her quiet, and was prosecuted by the Department of Justice for that and was ultimately acquitted on 1 count and had a mistrial on all 5 counts. Because the jury was given a correct charge as to what the federal law was. In this particular case, the jury was given an incorrect jury charge as to what the law is, and they come out with a completely opposite ruling.
I asked my campaign finance treasurer if I could pay my wife $10,000. She's got more dirt on me than anybody else. And then report that as a campaign finance expense. And he's very fastidious. He manages the finances of at least a dozen different campaigns. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Yet, isn't that sort of the same theory that Alvin Bragg had here? That something like that could be reported as a campaign finance expense?
It's very similar to what's happened here.
So, Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. And what's more is that was taxpayer money, right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct charges the hush money?
All of them?
I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know. But I do know it's taxpayer money. And I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense. Is the FEC going to investigate the $17 million that Congress has paid to settle, behind closed doors these sexual misconduct allegations?
Congressman, if a complaint were to come to us about it, I'm sure it would be thoroughly investigated.
We'd like to
I
just
might
know the
file
names.
one because it seems like anybody could do this. But let me just ask this. Is this verdict going to be vacated? Attorney General Bailey, what do you think?
It absolutely should be.
On what grounds?
Numerous grounds. I think the 5 grounds I laid out in my opening statement provide sufficient justification to undermine the credibility of the conviction. I think there are additional grounds
jurisdiction,
as well.
jury
But I think that
instructions.
the constitutional violations, the due process violation, the jury unanimity, 6th Amendment problem alone, the gag order is violative of the First Amendment. I mean, the prosecutorial misconduct, the conviction is replete with legal error.
Yeah.
Ms. Foley, do you think this is going to be vacated, this verdict?
I do, and I think eventually it's going to be reversed based on legal grounds rather than mixed questions of fact and law. So some of the evidentiary issues, some of the bias issues, I think they're more difficult to win on appeal because the appellate courts owe deference.
And because it's a New York Court of Appeals.
Determinations of trial judges, bias is very difficult to win on appeal because the judge has so much latitude in deciding whether to recuse himself. That's why the due process errors are so critical here, because obviously due process errors are questions of law. They get de novo standard of appellate review. The appellate courts owe absolutely no deference whatsoever.
So the irony here is this is going to be vacated, and this trial was all about trying to influence an election using the process as the punishment. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit for the record 3 documents. One is entitled FEC Drops Investigation into Trump Hush Payments. This is from 3 years ago. I'd like to introduce a document. Congress has paid $17 million in sexual misconduct and discrimination settlements. This was in Axios.
That's our money.
2017. And my third and final document I'd like to introduce is from CNN. Congress paid out $17 million in settlements. Here's why we know so little about that money.
Yeah, and we'd like to know who's on that list.
Back.
Who are the names?
This is amazing.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice to just have a list of names? Like, who were those settlements paid out on behalf of? Updating list. Another settlement, another congressperson, another claim. Would be very interesting. I've not seen a list like that. We all know why that is. All right, so that's Massie. That's Fani. We got Bragg. It's corrupt. It's collusion all over the place. Ashleigh Merchant digging in on it. Steve Sadow. Fani Wills is freaking out because she's got a big booty, which we never even brought up here, okay? She's just got a problem with that, which a lot of people like that. It's not even a big problem, okay? People twerking all over the place these days. Not a big deal. I'm sure she was doing that with Nathan Wade. That's probably why they're still friends. So, Fani Wills freaks out. We'll continue to cover it, my friends. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. Thanks for sharing this video with someone else who might be interested in Fani's giant ass. We'd love to have them come join us here on this channel, and we'd love to see you back here as well on the next one. All right, that's fun. All right, let's carry on, shall we? We've got one final segment on the day. Let's get to it. Donald Trump stormed Congress again, causing another insurrection. Liz Cheney's having an absolute fit over it. She put a full paragraph out there on X as her dad was helping calm down her PTSD. She had all of her nurses there again. Is it happening again? Is the Capitol being taken over again? Like, no, you're at home. You're at home. You're not in Congress anymore because you got thrown out bigly because no one likes you. So she got on X and she posted this big post because of this image. Look at this. She's so mad about it. Here is Donald Trump insurrecting Congress again, breaking Mitch McConnell's hand right off of his body. Mitch McConnell's, they're wincing in tremendous pain. Tim Scott is supporting this attack. He's a co-conspirator in this new insurrection because he wants to be the vice president. And Mitch McConnell was also forced to drink a Diet Coke, and he drank the whole thing. Trump's favorite drink. Trump's taken over Congress, and Mitch McConnell's just a feeble old man who doesn't know any better. And so Liz Cheney says, America is over again. Here's what she posted over on X. Very upset with this. Says, Mitch McConnell knows Trump provoked the violent attack on our Capitol and then watched television happily. She put in quotes. As his mob brutally beat police officers and hunted the vice president. He knows Trump refused for hours to tell his mob to leave. And even then, with police officers bleeding, he kept repeating his election lies and praising the criminals. He knows Trump committed a, quote, disgraceful dereliction of duty. Where's she citing these from? Liz, you should put some footnotes in here. Are you just quoting yourself, or what is this? And is a danger to our republic. Trump and his collaborators will be defeated, and history will remember the shame of people like Leader McConnell, who enabled him. So, way to go there, Mitch. Shaking hands with Hitler again. So, all right. So Liz Cheney's obviously having a rough day. Kind of feels like she's going down the James Carville path, which is total midlife crisis and meltdown. So we're going to take a look at a couple of these clips from some of the weirdos. ultra upset that Trump insurrected again. But then J.D. Vance is going to come clean this up, and then we'll listen to what Trump said right in the aftermath of his visit to the Capitol, because it is good. I think we've got a lot of energy on our side. We're looking forward to it. But MSNBC is trying the "Are you even a real Christian?" angle now. So we'll see a lot more of this. Hunter Biden is doing his Christian reborn again thing with his spiritual advisors showing up on TV. And now MSNBC is saying, you hate Jesus if you vote for Trump. I mean, how could you even vote for someone? Do you even have morals? Do you even know what ethics are? How could you do such a thing? Here is MSNBC carrying on.
Do you understand why?
Why?
Do I understand why they're doing it? I mean, no, I can't, because I'm like you, right? I mean, I both thought Trump was unfit from the beginning and took people like Marco Rubio and so many of the other candidates in 2016, Ted Cruz, doesn't matter. Everybody was on our side back then. J.D. Vance, they all thought the exact same way we did. Some of them called themselves never Trumpers like us. And then we watched them for political expediency, for their own professional growth.
Because they realized that they were sold a lie from you people. It'd be wise if you smarted up and joined us.
Sort of tolerate Trump, make common cause with him, but celebrate him, become his biggest lickspittles and toadies. And there's something particularly painful.
What's up?
I think about them cheering him as he returns to the Capitol.
What's so hard for you?
As Nancy Mace said.
What?
He threatened their lives.
Whoa.
And one of the things that strikes me, I run this group, Republican Voters Against Trump, and one of the number one reasons that people who voted for Trump twice say that they will not vote for him again is because he lied about the results of the election, saying that it was stolen.
It was.
And then
we
he
just covered
fomented an insurrection. Segment. And for a lot of these Republicans, that was their red line. That was the end of it for them. And the fact that these people are now willing to make videos, put their faces on billboards saying, absolutely not, Trump's unfit, I won't vote for him. They have the courage to do that. They're willing to make that case. But members of Congress, people who purport to be devout Christians, who purport to back the blue, who purport to stand for the rule of law, they're there to cheer Donald Trump, the guy who was morally and temperamentally responsible for the insurrection. It is stomach churning and it is gaslighting. It is the kind of emperor has no clothes kind of phenomenon.
All right, that was a painful 2 minutes. Wow. Okay, so a lot to unpack there, but Christians, if you like the police, then you're a maniac forever supporting Trump. She's not the maniac. Everyone else is the maniac. And Trump was morally responsible for J6, which I think is what Nancy Pelosi already admitted she was responsible for. She said that in the aftermath of January 6th, that she should have had more security there. We played that clip earlier in the week. Now, her hope to win in 2024 is to have Donald Trump not run. And the only way that's going to happen, since their lawfare attacks are not working, is if there's an intervention to stop Trump from running. Melania, Barron, Ivanka, Jared, come on, Don Jr., let's go, Eric. Rally the troops and just sit down with Trump and say, Mr. President, it's not in your best interest to lead America again. Is that what she thinks is going to happen?
So if we're going to do psychoanalysis of them, I think we have to have them in person in front of some healthcare professionals. But I do wish there would be an intervention from his family, assuming they love him beyond the resources, assuming that they love him, that they would intervene, that the Republican Party would have an intervention. They have become a cult to a thug. And that is really a tragedy for the grand old party and what they were.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so they want an intervention. They are freaked out, my friends. They know that they're going to lose. All right, here's just a short one of Schumer. Then we'll jump into Vance and Trump. We got to make sure we know what the heck's going on out there. All right, so here is Schumer.
Democracy, and what a disaster he'd be as president. But none of them seem, or very few, a couple didn't show up, as you said, but very few, including McConnell. McConnell should have had the courage not to show up. He knows, I think he knows deep in his heart what Trump is like and what Trump would do.
No, all right, so that's McConnell and Schumer getting into it, apparently. We'll see if their breakfast is good this Sunday. Now, here's J.D. Vance. He was asked about this. Media says, Trump is still responsible for January 6th. He says, no, he's not. No one believes your stupid fake narrative. Liz Cheney got thrown out. No one even likes her anymore.
Republicans for being responsible for January the 6th.
Well, look, I think that no real Republican with any credibility in the party is still blaming him for January the 6th. Even, frankly, some of his critics were in the room and were supportive and are supportive. So it's a good thing, and I think the Republican Party's in a good place.
You've been one of his strongest critics.
They should have their own rules.
All right, so J.D. Vance says no one even believes that. Republicans are getting unified now. Your fake narrative about J6 has been proven fake. We know the feds were all over the place. We know Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Son had a lot of issues with what was done with security there. Nancy Pelosi just came out, admitted she was responsible for it. Sergeant at Arms for the Senate and the House, especially the House, was unavailable for some tactical responses, according to Stephen Son. The fake Beastie Boys, Capitol Hill Police, so-called, have all been shown to be liars, in my opinion. And so no one believes it. Party looks unified. Look at this good-looking crowd welcoming Donald Trump in. And by the way, happy birthday, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. This was a great meeting. There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party. We want to see borders. We want to see strong military. We want to see money not wasted all over the world. We don't want to see Russian ships right off the coast of Florida, which is what they are right now. That's unthinkable. We want to see just success for our country. And we don't have success right now. We have inflation that's killing everybody. We have levels of inflation that nobody's seen for, they say 42 years, they say 53 years, and they say 75 years. I would say probably all of them are wrong. Probably we've never seen levels like this before. And we're going to end that. We're going to bring back our jobs. We're going to bring back common sense to government. We're going to have strong borders, and we're going to have people come into our country, but they're going to come in legally. They're not going to pour in from prisons all over South America and all over the world. And it's not just South America, by the way. It's all over the world. And we're not going to have them pour in from mental institutions, which is where they're coming from, large numbers, and large numbers are terrorists. And we're not going to have this. So what's happening to our country is of great concern to the group of people standing alongside of me. And I just wanted to say that we have great unity. We have great common sense. A lot of very smart people in this room and a lot of people that love our country. They love our country beyond just about all else. And the only thing that maybe supersedes it is their family
Ukraine
and maybe
also.
Their faith in certain instances.
Sometimes, some of them
That's
Ukraine
nice.
too.
But they want this country to be great again, and we're going to make it great again. And so I just want to thank the Republican Senate, and I want to thank also the House. We met, as you know, with the full House, Republican House today, and we had a tremendous meeting with them also, and there's great unity. Very similar, different topics actually, but not that different. And there's one thing in common. We want to make America great again. We want to make our country great again. We're a nation that's in decline. We're a declining nation. We're a nation that is being laughed at all over the world. We have a leader that's being laughed at all over the world. And we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around fast. The polls are looking like they're very strongly for us. And if you, no matter where you look, in fact, a lot of states that people thought weren't in play are very strongly in play. Some were actually leading in. But we have to get elected. We have to take this beautiful place and we have to make it really something very special again. Right now, it's not special. Right now, it's being scorned and being used as an example of when they look at the crime on the streets, when they look at all of the problems that we have, they're using us as a bad example of democracy. and they're getting away with murder, and we're not going to let it happen. So I just want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank everybody here. You're all either elected or you're going to be elected again and reelected, and I'm with every one of you, and you know that. I'll be with you always. And thank you very much for inviting me, and we're going to have great success. I think we're going to have a tremendous election. It's November 5th is very important, but we're going to start much earlier than that. You have North Carolina. As an example, you have North Carolina September 6th. You have Pennsylvania starts on September 22nd. These are things different from the old days. We had election day and you had paper ballots and you had voter ID. Unfortunately, maybe someday we'll get back to that.
Maybe some signatures.
You don't
too,
have that right now. But this is an outstanding group of people. I'm with them 1,000%. They're with me 1,000%. We agree just about on everything, and if there isn't, we work it out. And I've had a really great relationship with just about everybody here, and just about all of the senators. And if it wasn't fantastic, it gets worked out. And we have one thing in mind, and that's making our country great. So thank you all very much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. President. Josh Hawley, J.D. Vance. There's Lion Ted. Lindsey Graham's there. All right, so nice big round of applause there for Trump still going. He's got Chuck Grassley in the background. Is that Britt? All right, Mr. President is out of there. Wow, and so that's Donald Trump. That was his meeting with the Senate, and very nice welcome, very warm reception, claps all around. Wow, it does feel like there is some unity there. Is Joe Biden capable of doing something like that? Does he get the same support? Would he even be able to go up and speak for 5 minutes? Impromptu? No, of course not, because he's not competent. Trump has the support of the Republican Party. Looks like it is consolidating all around us. Very good news. That energy is in the air, my friend. Certainly feels like a 2016 vibe for sure. Liz Cheney's freaked out. MSNBC screaming at Christians. Chuck Schumer's mad at Mitch McConnell. Nancy Pelosi wants a family intervention. But Trump, all he wants to do is make America great again. So do we. We're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends. Thank you for joining us as we do. We've got tons of great content on this channel, so we'd love for you to subscribe and join us as our coverage here continues. Thanks for also considering sharing this with a friend or family member. If you enjoyed the content, we'd love it if you shared it, send it around so that they could see also what's going on here. We'll be back here on the next one, and we'll look forward to seeing you there. But before we exit, we have this great segment that's coming up right over here, and we'd love it if you check that one out, because you're going to love hearing about what we talk about in that segment, which is the Supreme Court unbanning bump stocks. We'll see you over there and back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. We covered 4 good segments. Bump stock bans are out. Bump stocks are back. The bans are out. We have the election rigging in Michigan was stopped for now with their initial presumptions of validity there, thanks to Jocelyn. We got Fani freaking out over her big butt. I don't know what her problem is. I don't know what the problem is with big butts. But we also have Trump storming Congress and insurrecting Liz Cheney again, and she's having a tough time over there. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Let's see what you say about this. We got some great comments and great donos and conversation coming in. Thank you so much for sending those in. Let's see what you have to say about all of this stuff. Jigam sent this one in yesterday, was asking about the bruises, which is going away. Says, Rob, gig is up. You got one of those Amber Heard bruise kits, didn't you? The Amber Heard collection on how you can create realistic bruises too. Just get some of this stuff and just smear it on your body, on your biceps. Thank you, Jigam. Very nice dono. Appreciate that one. We got this one from Knox, sent this one in yesterday, shouting out some prayers. We were sending prayers all over the place. Roadless Wolf is also here with the dono from yesterday. The Rubos sent this one in today. The Rubos have some amazing prayers. Here's a nice prayer. It says, a prayer for all of the Watching the Watchers family and their family members. By the stripes of Jesus, you are healed. Jesus took your sicknesses, your wounds, and for those who have cancer, he took from you every form and stage of cancer. He carried all of your pain. We believe it is the will of God Almighty for you to be healed. In a nice bed of roses, a beautiful prayer from the Rubos. We absorb it. We appreciate the prayer, the Rubos. Amen. Thank you for that. We got this one. Roger Needham, member for 4 months, says, loving Jesus has nothing to do with politics. Well, tell that to MSNBC and tell that to Hunter Biden. They're about to make it very political. Angel says, I sent this earlier. Don't know if your people have had a chance to check it out. My people, it's funny. It's me. This is, we have some help on the back end, of course, but it's basically me. This is Ashleigh Merchant wiping the floor with another corrupt Fulton County judge. She's so awesome. Thank you, Angel, for sending that one in. Yeah, I think, is that the one where she came in and was defending Mr. Steele in the aftermath? She's great, man. She's just awesome. So thanks for that one, Ashleigh. Angel, I appreciate that one. Cowboy Rob says, Liz Cheney, useless, just like Nancy. Also, definition of DEI is destroy everything instantly. The other good one on that I heard was didn't earn it. Is another good one. Didn't earn it. Really pretty brutal. Love that one. Hey, look at this one from Sweet Potato in the house. And that's amazing. Thank you for that one. We are shouting that one out. And Sweet Potato on Locals had a baby, which is just amazing. So amazing to see that. And come on over to Locals if you want to see that. Not sure if we have permission to share that on the show or not, but we thank you. We have a beautiful baby on Locals. What's up? Crash says, I wonder if implied in Nancy's comment that someone needs to stop Trump, that the stopping is by any means, or did she explicitly say by peaceful means? If not, then she is stating that extra legal means of any sort are fine. In the house from Crash. Good to see you, Crash. Thanks for the dono. Mima says, it seems that no one sees me in the chat. We see you. Can someone take a look at it, please? Thank you. I think we see you, Mima. Drop something in the chat. I'll keep my eye out. Cowboy Rob says, why no challenge on the regulations being treated as law? Membo for 6 months, Cowboy Rob. Well, I think they are challenging it. Yeah, that's basically what that Cargill case was all about. He was challenging the regulation. They tried to make that, to say that was a law, and it wasn't. SCOTUS reversed. We got this one from B.H. Williams. Says, now the Supreme Court justices are wildlife biologists? They can tell what a duck is, but they can't tell us what a woman is, from B.H. Williams. That's funny. Yeah. What are you, a wildlife biologist? Oh, gosh. That is just great. Wildlife biologist is just perfect. And that was Ketanji, the defense attorney Jackson. What's up? Mima here says, so strange. People can see my super chat, but nothing else in the chat I posted before. K-Bean, would you be kind enough to have a look at this? Everybody says we see you. We see you, Mima. Says, thank you. Yeah, we can check to see if you're banned or something, but here, let me see. Here, let's just do a quick scroll. Did you drop something in the chat? Let me see if I can see it. Yeah, I got it. Mima. Nope, doesn't work for my computer. I see you right there. So are you in live chat or are you in top chat? So that's another thing. So also check this out, Mima. It might be this. So if you're in the chat mode, okay, if you're in this chat mode, you can have top chat or live chat. I think, can you guys do that too? Maybe you can do that. So try that one. Yeah, we see you, Mima. I saw you right here. Okay, hopefully we solved it. Yeah, there you are right there. It only works from the phone. So try live chat. Change live chat from top chat to live chat. See if that fixes it. But I'm seeing you loud and clear. What's up? Hey, what's up? Sandy King. Welcome aboard. Newest supporter in the house. Great to have you, Sandy. We'll see you tomorrow on our members only morning stream. Irony is Cargill is the Democrats' biggest proponent, and the man that basically saved future gun restrictions is also named Cargill. So in your face, says Gordon with a nice dono in. Thank you, Gordon. I don't know much about that man, but I just followed him and appreciate his work fighting for justice. Hey, Glocky McLock says, recognize where we are in society. Says, now we are removing U-turn signs because they were homophobic. No, this isn't a joke. What? No U-turns is homophobic now? What? Okay, strange. What's up? Glocky says, so in Justice Sotomayor's opinions, she calls AR-15s commonly available semi-automatic, which means that assault weapons bans are going to be very hard to defend because she just admitted that they're common usage and assault rifles aren't any different than a handgun. Yeah, commonly available semi-automatic rifles. So okay, just like muskets were back during the Revolutionary period. So we can take that same application of commonly available and apply it to AR-15. So you're not banning them any further. Great comment, Glocky. Love that one. This one came out from Glocky, says, off topic, but Trump is even crushing it in Britain. British model Holly Valance hosts record-breaking London fundraiser for the Trump campaign. Hey, shout out to our friends in the UK, man. That's amazing. Glocky says, I was told that violating court orders like the Secretary of State is doing in Michigan is punishable by jail time. Where are the sheriffs in these jurisdictions to arrest her? And you know dang well that if the local clerks were to disregard a court order that favored Democrats, they would be in jail for stealing an election, and it would be all over the news. You deserve what you tolerate. Chubby says, I have trouble trying to understand how the biggest Fani in Georgia isn't violating the separation of church and state every time she rants in her church about her work. Oh, well, Judge McAfee said it didn't matter because she didn't say them by name. Thanks, Judge. She's free to go to church. No one denies that, but taking the pulpit to essentially hold a press conference and rant about her state job seems to be a clear violation to me. I would say it's also unethical. Yeah. For a prosecutor to really talk about anything like that because they have the prosecutorial power of the government. They have an unfair advantage. Then they also have the power of the prestige of the office. So they have government power, they have political power, they have public power, and they go and they rip on other people like us who just call her Fani, okay? Which is her name, by the way. It's very unfair, but it's okay. I'm used to these bullies and cheaters. We're not worried about it. So yeah, it's right. Now, the people of Georgia apparently love this. They're like, yes, more Fani. They've got a fever. The only prescription is more Fani. Tree Climber says Michigan's evil big three, Whitmer, Nessel, and Benson. Gosh, great combo. Governor, Attorney General, and Secretary of State, the big three. And they all kind of have the same look to them, you know. Oh, here's hospital staff preparing for bird flu again. Yeah, just like for COVID. Just like for COVID. Remember when they were all dancing, doing the little dances? And their TikToks. Hey, what's up? This one. What does this say? All right, well, I don't know what that one is. This old guy says Kaitlin Collins is overpaid. Probably true. I don't know what she makes, but probably. Glocky says, is this machine gun in the room with us now? Says the ATF. Is this machine gun in the room with us now? Where did the machine gun touch you? Sotomayor. Funny. Hey, this one. Oh yeah, this guy. He was on our radar. Includes never getting swatted, being watched 24/7, but never being stopped. Guns come out of thin air. It becomes a cold case in 2 weeks. Here's your costume for being the most mysterious man on the planet. What the hell happened with that? Hey, Tony Hey Munkets is bringing in 5 new membos. El Superhombre is here. What's up, El Superhombre? We got KM in the house, Monkey Chunks. We got Brian W. and Lee Dixon, all gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hey Munkets. Hey, does Fani twerk? Rolling on the floor. You're killing me, just killing me. I'm still enjoying your brain. It's nice that it keeps me informed and at the same time keeps me laughing. Thank you for all the work you do. God bless you. She does. I'm pretty sure. If you had to wager, come on. Look. Fani and Nathan Wade were calling each other, texting each other at like 2 a.m. They were having Grey Goose in Belize, okay? They were going to Napa Valley, having wine. You think Fani was twerking with Nathan's hot dog? Give me a break. Of course. Eli, what's up, Eli, says, yes, Massie, let's talk about the DC's naughty slush fund for hush money that the taxpayers pay. Yeah, they're probably twerking too over there in Congress. It's twerking all over the place. Look, if your name is Fani, it's basically in your genes that you're going to be twerking. So she's twerking all over Fulton, no doubt. Glocky says, I am convinced the Las Vegas shooter was under deep cover for one of the intel agencies to infiltrate ISIS. They messed up. It was an actual ISIS attack, but they covered it up because they botched it after ISIS killed him and did the attack. His wife, girlfriend is from part of the Philippines. It's crawling with ISIS. In fact, we special forces guys deployed there training and fighting alongside the Philippine military. Yeah, there was absolutely more to that story. It was the weirdest thing. And I don't remember what the actual, conclusion on that might be. That sounds as plausible as anything. But I do remember watching the police, and it was a weird situation. And they came out, and one of them was like crying after a couple of days. He was like bawling his eyes out, how upset he was over something. It was weird. You could feel the pressure on this investigation was unlike anything we'd seen recently. Chubby says, it's just another example of Georgia's biggest Fani blowing a lot of hot air. Yeah, she's making a big ruckus there. Big Fani's making a lot of noise in Georgia, moving a lot of air all over the place. Sergi P says, have you seen what Michael Benn said to Benny Johnson about the Biden crime family? If so, what do you think? No, I wish you'd given us a little bit more in there so I could comment on it. But no, I hadn't seen it. I know Michael Benz and I know Benny Johnson, but I haven't seen their conversation. So unfortunately, I don't know what to think. We got this one from Toba. Says, Bulwark is the worst. They should call themselves neocons or us. Their motto could be anybody that doesn't want a Cheney to rule the world is evil, from Tobo. Good to see you, Tobo. We got NY says, the word of the day is lick spittle. Generally amused by that CNN anchor using that word. It's another word for toady. I cannot think of a better description for the Democrats in Congress, including Adam Lick Spittle Schiff. Yeah, that's a pretty good word too. That is a pretty good word. We'll have to remember that one. Gordon B, what's up? Membo for 3 months. That's 1/3 of the way to a baby. Thanks, Gordon, for being a membo. We'll see you on our members only stream in the morning. Carville equals Cargill. Still in your face, Dems, from Gordon B. Good to see you, Gordon. This old guy on Locals says, wow, somebody should tell Liz that Trump left of his own accord. Maybe she'll chill out a little. Yeah, she's level 10, 12 TDS. She probably is going to need a team of psychiatrists at this point. I'm not sure anyone can help. Hey, this one. Hunter Biden dropping his lawsuit against Rudy. Glocky flagging this one for us. Thank you, Glocky. That's good news. Laptop from hell case is gone. Hopefully Garrett Ziegler's are next. ELZ said, thank you, Rob, for another week keeping us informed, amused, and motivated. $7 for luck. ELZ, thank you for that. What a nice one. Well, thank you, ELZ, for being here, joining us as we journey through this stuff. Couldn't do it without you. I really appreciate you being a membo. Thanks for the extra love on Locals. Very generous of you. And have a beautiful weekend ahead, my friend. We'll see you tomorrow, though, on the membo stream. Hey, what's up? Glocky says, okay, Biden has officially lost the 548 polls. Biden, Trump 272 to 266. Biden, oh, it's changed now. Wow, okay, so poly market odds. Good updates from new 538 forecast. Trump wins 51 to 49. Woo! 272 to 266 in June. So it's changing. That's good stuff. What's up? Guava Ball says, Trump getting applause from so many deep state actors in the Senate makes me believe he struck a deal with the devil. There is some sour, some bitter taste to some of the things that are happening, but I think on average, things are still very positive, and I'm happy that there's some unity on that. It's election season, right? So politics makes strange bedfellows, at least for the next 6 months, in my take on this one. Jennifer, what's up? Happy Flag Day, Robert and Watcher family. Happy Flag Day to you, Jennifer. And happy birthday to the best president ever, President Donald J. Trump. It is his birthday. What a coincidence, huh? Flag Day, Trump's birthday. It's very appropriate. So happy birthday to President Trump. Jennifer, have a great weekend ahead. Thanks for being here. And thanks for the birthday shout outs to the Prez. Cowboy Rob says, Can't SCOTUS rule across the board? The rules and regulations are not the law. Well, they are. Yeah, they are not the law. I mean, that's already the rule, I would say. So the regulations are not the law. The law is the statutes, and then, or whatever the law at issue is. But the regulations are an interpretation of the law being applied as law. And I don't think that they would invalidate all of the regulations, because the regulations actually do serve a purpose when they interpret the law faithfully. But what the bureaucrats do is they try to manipulate that and try to make the regulations different than what the law actually says. That's how they get whatever they want done. Former says, does everyone remember the assault weapons ban that lasted for 10 years and had zero impact on crime? I do. That was under Clinton, right? Good to see you, Former. We got Guava Ball. Says, if Tim Scott is the VP, the deal with the deep state is sealed, and Trump should really be worried about his safety. Timmy, he's pro-war, pro-Ukraine, and a deep state's dream candidate. I think that's right, actually. Yeah, I'm not a huge... Tim Scott seems like a nice guy, but I'm not sure that he's got the presidential caliber. I feel like he might be... He's more malleable than I think I'd like in a candidate. I think you could push him to kind of do whatever you want. And we need somebody who is against those very, very powerful forces. Dolphin fan is the man. Hello, everyone. Just want to wish everyone a blessed weekend and have an amazing Father's Day this Sunday. Shout out to our amazing fathers out there. Love you guys, says Dolphin fan. We do have some amazing fathers out there, and it is Father's Day. We're going to be celebrating my father. Shout out to Greg. We'll see you this Sunday. We got Tobo says, I think the FBI found no provable motive, but I think he was such a devoted gambler, he was bound to have lost a large part of his fortune. He had an accident in the casino, got no compensation. I think the key was that his father was a hardened criminal, and that had an effect on his psyche. Of course, if the FBI needs my advice, I'm available. Good to see you, Tobo. Dolphin fan is the man, bringing in 10 new members. Look who's coming in. Pamela G's here. Amber S came in. Texas B, Aaron R, Mr. P, Misfit News, Tam Tam, and Brad T, all in the house, courtesy of Dolphin fan is the man, bringing in James Hicks, Carol R, all gifted membos, and it's great to see you. James Hicks and Carol R in the house. We got Mima says, I've tried everything, and it still doesn't work for my PC. Well, I'm not sure what's going on, Mima. My only suggestion would be the live chat, changing that live chat functionality to top, or from top chat to live chat, maybe. You're clearly not like banned on my end or anything. I see you right now. I mean, your name is right here. We can see you right here. Look. Right here, Mima. At Real with Robo, update is done. You're coming in loud and clear. Did you block yourself or something? Did you block yourself on YouTube? Can you do that? I don't know if you can do that. Maybe you've blocked yourself and you can't see yourself or something. But yeah, you're coming in loud and clear on our end. So I'm not sure what's going on. Strange. What's up, Tony? Hey, Munkets, bringing in 5 more membos. Shout out. David H is coming in. Julie's here. Scott C, Hi T, and JW. We got Jay Wins in the house. Good to see you also, Jay Wins. Thanks for sending that in. Okay, and so my friends, we are going to say what's up to our friends on X. Then we're going to leave it there on the day. We are going to go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party, where we will debrief for a bit on the day. Let's see what else we have from our feed here on X. We've got no comments today because it looks like we posted all of our videos. So we got no comments on the day, which means we've got nothing to review. That means we're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. So come check it out. We also go live on Saturdays when we're able to, and it's often. So come check it out. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com is where we'll be over there. RobertGovea.com is where our website is. If you want to get PDFs or any of the show notes, that's where we post them. We also have our show calendar, so you can keep apprised of the schedule. And of course, WatcherLodge.com, which is where you can get tickets to Las Vegas, our Watcher meetup at Trump Tower very soon. So come and join us at watcherlodge.com. Grab the tickets, and we'll see you over there. Before we wrap it up, we want to say what's up and thank you to our mods and our meme smiths. K Bean in the house is here. Just Cause, Playing Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zach Nichols, Janek, Dog Digger, Economy Pilot, Donut Mind Me, Carrie B's in the house, and Zulu all joining us. Great to see you. We got Sleepy Dog Lee, Nathan NA10, Geegum Geegum, Glocky McClock, and Elliot, our Doc Master, sending in some good help and support as our meme smiths, Doc Masters, and mods. Woodchip Bill says, another great week, Rob. Thanks for the info and happy birthday to President Trump. We've got this one from STFU, says, my super chat was not read, and I'm not sure why that is, STFU. I'll take a look to see if I can find it, but not intentional. We got this one from BH, says, I've watched some regulation writing. Part of the problem is Congress is lazy, mostly Republicans, and or no, the regulators are mostly Democrats and deep state Democrats. Their statutory construction grants them extraordinary legislative powers to the regulators. Then the regulators take the statutes and refine the definitions and stretch legislative intent. Frequently, the regulations look nothing like what Congress intended, and most of it is the fault of Congress. We got this one from STFU, says, I feel like no U-turn signs, there it is, could be seen as a violation of the ADA because it's obviously mocking people with Perion's disease, right? Right? Tom Walker, been a membo for 3 months. Good to see you, Tom. 3 months as a membo, says U.S. Army birthday today. So happy birthday to the U.S. Army and to our friends that serve our country in the Army. Happy birthday. Good to see you, Tom. Thank you for that one. My friends, that is going to be it for us on the day and on the week. We are heading over to Locals for a members-only after party, and we'd love to see you there. And for members, we'll be back here tomorrow morning for our members stream on Saturday as well. But if we don't get to see you, well, we are going to be back here next week to get into it again. And until then, it is time for us to unplug, to get outside, to spend some time with our friends and family, to get some sunshine, some fresh air, some vitamin D, to move our bodies, refill our lungs, rejuvenate our spirits, restore our souls, spend the time with the people that we love, the most important in the world, because when we come back here on Monday, we're going to need to get into it again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. An incredible, amazing weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.